what were we doing yesterday? We were talking about prototypes, and then we actually ended up going very deep into prototypes, right? So while talking about prototypes, we learned a lot of things yesterday. So very important, the most important ones are how the commonly used objects in JavaScript, right, are actually nothing but based on the prototypes, right? So I'll just quickly scroll to that part. I think we started somewhere around here. Yes. So we started with something called as array methods, right? And what are array methods? We realize that, hey, when we are doing instance of array, this guy dot something, let's say for each map or concat or anything, right? It doesn't really exist on the property itself, but it's still able to find its way, and that's because of delegation on failed lookups, right? So those delegations on failed lookups on the prototype cause this to happen, because internally, whenever you say this is simple syntactic sugar over this guy, right? And then this really gives us a lot of ways in which we can use this. Then we talked about the class keyword, and how important concept we spoke of is static methods. Okay, guys, am I audible? Can everyone hear me now? I think there was a fluctuation in the internet. Okay, now clear? Cool. Okay, second thing, we talked about class, right? The class keyword and how it's really a syntactical sugar over constructor functions, right? Constructor functions are simply functions which are called with the new keyword, and then we know what internally happens. It creates object.create, moves it to this, and then returns that this. Okay. So finally, we talked about how we can create static methods and what static methods are. The concept was very simple. That there are times when something does not need to be present on every instance of the class, right? Every line or every dog of the class, but it should still be associated with the class in some way. Then in that case, the only way of doing it is using static methods, right? And then we just realize that static methods are nothing but it takes the name of the class like this and is basically attaching a new method to it, and which is internally implemented like this. So in this case, we're finding the top animals. Right? Finally, we talked about the same thing using a function, a constructor function. This is how we went about doing it. Then we talked about two important properties. The first one was the prototype object has a constructor property, right? Which essentially points to the original function or the class from which that instance was created. So this is one thing that we inferred from our quick check, which is this check. And then, of course, second, when you do get prototype of, this is also an important method. It gives you the prototype of an object, right? So doing this will give us the prototype of line C, which will definitely be the same as animal.prototype. Right? Everyone, are we clear so far? Okay, cool. Moving forward now. Yes. Then I talked about proto, which is not supposed to be used anymore. It's the older way of doing things. Always use this guy. Then an important question: how do you distinguish properties that lie on prototype and with the properties that lie on instance, right? And we understood how we can do that. So Amit suggested one thing here that hey, we can do object.keys, object.prototype. This will give us the prototype, and this will give us the properties on the object itself, right? And then we can just compare. Then we talked about a one-liner in which we can simply use the has own property, right? Now, then we discovered something which is wherein we wanted to check, hey, if this object is an instance of this class, right? So how we can do that? We realize that, hey, either they will have common prototypes. So we can do something like this. or simply use the instance of operator, one-liner, right? Then we move to this definition, right? And you guys were able to point out the mistake in that. And the mistake was it was not being called with the new keyword, right? Because if it's not getting called with the new keyword, what is not going to happen? This inside animal, this inside of here will not get assigned or will not get associated, right? Similarly, if you look at it here, what happens, guys, is we try to rectify the same thing, right? And how did we do that? Very simple. We called this guy, and then we were simply checking, hey, is this an instance of animal? If that is not true, then we can tell the customer or the user that, hey, it seems that you have not mentioned the new keyword, right? Everyone clear with this? Cool. Second thing where we went one step ahead, and what we did is, if the person is doing this thing, still we don't throw them any errors. Instead, we create a new instance for them by doing this. Please repeat. What do you want me to repeat, Mukta? Which one? Which one, Mukta? One, 396. Okay. So what we discovered the other day is when we are calling an animal sort of a problem, it's a problem because then two things are not going to happen. Okay, I don't know why it's happening, as I'm on a good connection only. Anyway, let me repeat this. Am I audible now? Guys, am I audible right now? It's not about rejoining. It's about, okay, what I can do probably is I can move to my hotspot. I'll just move to my phone hotspot, guys. Seems like my broadband is facing issues. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll rejoin. Okay, I'll just connect with my hotspot. That should do it. Right? Guys, am I audible now? Is it fine now? Okay, I've just moved to my phone's hotspot, right? Seems like Airtel is doing a better job than broadband. Okay. Okay, so I'll just repeat from here because I think that's where it started cracking. Cool, just let me know if it breaks, I'll repeat whatever I'm saying, but it should be fine mostly now. Right, okay, so what were we talking about? We talked that, hey, when someone does this, right, basically does this without using the new keyword here, what is going to happen? We know very well that when we use the new keyword, two things happen, right? One is JavaScript assigns object.create to this inside the function, right? So JavaScript does this thing and it returns that this. These things implicitly happen. Implicitly, matlab, you don't see them, but they are happening, right? But if, let's say, someone made a mistake and they did this, right? So the first thing that we can do is we can tell them that, hey, you've made a mistake, right? And how can we tell them? Yes, because if you're creating this, right? If you're just doing this statement, if it were to implicitly happen, then this will definitely become an instance of animal. Yes or no? This everyone understands? whenever you're calling it with new, it will become an instance of animal. Clear? Because of all the story of object.create, delegation, and all those things on field lookups. Correct? So what I'm doing is, if that is not the case, right? If that is not the case, if this is not an instance of animal, then you say, hey, seems like you did not write the new statement. मुक्ता समझ में आया आपको? Mukta, question to you, yes or no? Okay, cool. Secondly, we went one step ahead and did something even better. If the same thing is happening, right? Now, instead of bothering the customer with the same thing, we can just say return new animal, right? And when we do this, the correct thing is going to get returned to this customer or this user. Clear? Guys, say yes or say no, please. Okay. Okay. Finally, we went even one step further, and then the question was, hey, how can you create your own object.create function, right? And how do we create object.create function? It's like this. Did everyone understand this? Amit, did you understand this one? Amit, do you want to explain this to the whole class? Okay, come on, unmute.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Hi, Amit, perfectly.
Okay. So, as per your request, we were supposed to एक तो होता है कि object dot create करने से वो खुद ब खुद काम करता है. So what we wanted is we wanted to create our own object dot create such that कि वो पुराना function की जगह नया function हम लोग काम करें और मे भी शायद इस तरह का internally वो काम करता होगा. तो हम लोगों ने क्या किया कि object dot create में ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट से एक फंक्शन बनाया. फंक्शन में हम लोगों ने फंक्शन के अंदर का जो बॉडी है उसमें फंक्शन में हम लोग एक और फंक्शन डाले हैं जिसका नाम रखे हैं लाइन नंबर 1411 में myfn. myfn is doing is myfn डॉट प्रोटोटाइप इज इक्वल टू पेरेंट ऑब्जेक्ट कर दे रहा है. तो अभी इस क्रिएट ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट से व्हाटएवर ऑब्जेक्ट्स विल बी क्रिएटिंग, तो वो क्या करेगा, रिटर्न न्यू myfn जो कर रहा है, तो ये हमारा जो पेरेंट ऑब्जेक्ट है उसका प्रोटोटाइप ऑलरेडी वो अटैच कर देगा.
ओके, बट देन ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट का वो कैसे बना? मैं
ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट का क्या चीज कैसे बना सर?
ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट का फंक्शनैलिटी कैसे बना ये चीज करने से, वो बात क्लियर नहीं हुआ मुझे.
See, when object dot create is being called, हेलो, ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट इज बीइंग कॉल्ड, तो वो क्या कर रहा है, वो इंटरनली माई फंक्शन को कॉल कर रहा है.
करेक्ट.
माई फंक्शन में काम क्या हो रहा है, माई फंक्शन में जो पेरेंट ऑब्जेक्ट है, पेरेंट ऑब्जेक्ट के लिए वो प्रोटोटाइप माई फंक्शन के साथ अटैच कर दे रहा है. तो सपोज कीजिए कि आई क्रिएट एन ऑब्जेक्ट से अमित, तो वो क्या करेगा, अमित डॉट प्रोटोटाइप विल बी ऑफ सम पेरेंट ऑब्जेक्ट.
ठीक है. Clear. Everyone clear? Amit explained it really nicely, I think. Right? Okay. Now we will start with today's topic. Right? And what are we going to begin with, guys? So I gave you a hint of what we would try to accomplish today, right? So the hint was prototypal chain, right? Or the chain of prototype. And we've seen at least part of it, how it works. Today, we are just going to formalize it. And that's what our main aim for today is, right? So I'll just write it down, prototype chain, right? And in some sense, this is nothing but the basis of prototypal inheritance, or the only type of inheritance that JavaScript has. So I'm just going to call it JS inheritance. Right? Okay. So this is the name of today's episode, and let's begin. Cool. So previously, guys, we've learned how to create an animal class, right? We've learned it both in the ES6 class syntax and the function syntax, right? We've also learned how we can share methods across these classes by using the prototype, right? And the code, we've already discussed it many times, so we'll not repeat it again now, right? Now, let's say we wanted to start to create new classes for specific animals, right? So I'll take a basic example so that everyone understands. Let's say we wanted to have a class, not animal, but the class of a, let's say cat, or let's say dog, most common animal, right? So what I want is now this guy dog, instead of having name, right, and energy, I'm just going to give it another property which is called breed, right? Okay. And what I'm going to do here is very simple. This dot name equals name, this dot energy equals energy, right? And then this dot breed equals breed, right? Right? Outside of this, just outside of this, I'm going to say const, let's say Tommy equals new dog, right? And of course, I can access Tommy.name. I can access Tommy.energy, right? But let's say I wanted to say something as Tommy.eat or Tommy.bark. Right? In both these cases, will these functions work right now? Anyone? No? Perfect. So what do I need to do, Sweta, to make them work? What do I need to do? Sweta, can you answer that? Since you said no. This is already a constructor function, guys. Okay, prototype, but what about the prototype? आरवी क्या बोल रहे हो यार? ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट करने का कोई पॉइंट ही नहीं है. When you are doing new, automatically that is happening, right? Make the instance. Yes, Amit has only given the correct answer, right? Amit, बताओगे क्या करना है exactly? Correct. Ravi, good one. रवि, आप बताना चाहते हो? मुझे ईट, स्लीप और रेस्ट फंक्शनैलिटीज चाहिए, कैसे करूं? Ravi, do you want to tell this to everyone? I can unmute you if there's no mic problem. Okay. No worries. Dog dot prototype dot eat is nothing but a function, right? Similarly, dog dot prototype dot rest will be a function. Similarly, dog dot prototype dot sleep will be a function, right? And of course, I'm going to create dog dot prototype dot I don't know, bar. Right? I'm not writing these definitions inside. Everyone, all of us can do that. Okay, so by I'm not speaking, guys. I'm not speaking. I'm speaking now. Am I audible? Yes. Okay, audible. Right. Cool. Okay. Then let's move forward. I wasn't speaking. Okay. Cool. Right. So, okay, what have we done here by just writing this code? Haven't we just created the animal class? What we did earlier, we've just created that animal class, right? But if you look at it, today we have created a dog, right? Let's say tomorrow someone comes up and they say, hey, what I want is I want a cat class also. Right? And in that I want name, energy, and let's say I want, can't think of the properties, I'll say tail length. Hair color. More reasonable, right? And again, guys, what you'll have to do is you'll have to rewrite this code, right? And of course, you will have to write the prototype of cat this time. Cat, 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 right? And right. Do we agree that all of us will have to do this many times? Thank you. Spelling. Right. So basically what is happening here is, if you look at it very carefully, the first three methods are same, right? These three methods are certainly the same. But just for giving you an example, I have just changed one last method, right? So three properties common with an animal and one property which is different from animals, right? Which will be different between different animals. And needless to say, there could be hundreds of such properties. Isn't it, guys? We can have hundreds of such different properties, right? Essentially, now we are running into the same problem. Okay. If we keep doing this cat, dog, and everything, it works perfectly, right? But it's again wastage, right? What is it wastage of? It's wastage of memory. It's wastage of space. You're writing more code for no reason, right? If you look at it, the animal class, right, or the animal function that you had created serves as the perfect base, right? Essentially, all of these are animals and they have these three common properties, right? So animal is definitely the perfect base, right? So what that means is that all properties that each of these animals have in common, right? Whether dog, cat, whatever, guys, monkey, elephant, or whatever, right? They will certainly have name, they will certainly have energy, they will certainly eat, sleep, and rest, right? So having said that, there should be a way in which I can reuse the animal class, right? Whenever I'm doing something like this, right? So how do we go about that? Okay. So just for our understanding, what I'm going to do is I'll just copy paste our animal class here. Right. I'm just going to copy paste this guy. Okay. So this was our animal class or animal function, whichever way you want to call it. Right. And let's say we were creating our dog here now. And what does this dog have? This dog has three things: name, energy, and the third property is bark or breed. I think breed is what he said. Okay, cool. Now, what are the things that we need inside this so that we can reuse this animal class? Let's understand that, right? So if you look at it, it has three arguments. One is name, second is energy, and third is breed, right? Second, you know that whenever you call this guy with the new keyword like this, passing those three arguments, right? You will have a this, right? Because whenever we call it using this, whenever we call it using new keyword, inside of this is created, right? And of course, it's assigned to object.create. We know about this, right, guys? We know this happens whenever we do new talk, right? And lastly, you know that you need to reuse the methods of the that already lie on the animal's prototype, right? So that any dog will be able to, of course, eat, sleep, and rest, right? So the first two things are easy enough, right? It's the third one which is problematic, you know, wherein we want to give a dog these capabilities also. So how do we do that is the first question that comes to our mind, right? So if you look at it, the way to utilize these functions, right, is essentially you need to call them, right? The way you utilize a function is by calling it. So we know that when you're inside this dog class, you want to make a call to the animal, right? However, what we need to figure out, guys, is that how do we call animal in the context of dog, right? Let me explain that again. See, understand this. Right in here, if you were to do new animal, right? Can I do this here? Can I say new animal here? Guys, and let's say I assigned it to, but please understand the problem. Inside of dog, what you are doing is this. Let me just copy these things for you and paste them here, right? And of course, then finally, a return of this was going to happen, right? But in the middle of this, we want to do something. We want to do something using which the prototype of dog will get access to the prototype methods of animal. Isn't this the only question that we have? Somehow, field lookups of run, rest, and eat on of dog should happen on animal. Is that the question that we are looking for? Do you agree? Right? Now let's understand the second problem. The problem is if you were to say new animal here, right? What happens is an animal is created, right? Now we know for a fact then that when we do this, when we call it with new dog, inside of object.create, dog.prototype is automatically passed, right? Pseudo classical instantiation, we've already learned this, right? However, guys, this thing is going to happen for a fact. We know that, right? But what you need to do is you also need to call this animal function, right? And how do you need to call this? This animal function, when you say new animal, right? In here, when I'm going to say new animal, what is it going to return? It's going to return me this, which was created inside this animal. Did we understand this? However, it will not be the same as this. There are too many thises here. When you do new animal, it will return you with this. We are absolutely clear of that, but that will be a new this, correct? Right? However, what we wanted is for this guy to get all of these properties, animal prototype properties, correct? Does everyone understand this basic thing? What I'm just saying? When you say new animal, internally what happens, we know about it. A new this is created with object.create of animal.prototype, it is returned, right? So essentially on this guy is where the animal.prototype properties lie, right? But we don't want that. What do we want? We want the this of dog to have the animal.prototype properties also. Yes or no? Guys, yes or no? Okay. So essentially the question is, how can I pass this guy to animal? And I want animal to use this one instead of the newly created one. And if I'm able to do that, everything is solved. Do you guys agree? Does everyone understand up till this point? Okay, great. Sweta, there is no such relationship which is established as of now, right? There is no parent-child relationship established as of now. This is a dog. When you call a class dog with new dog, these two lines happen, right? So in some sense, what I can say is whenever I call something with new keyword, this is created inside that particular class or that particular function, right? When I call new animal, there is going to be a new this which is created inside it. What I'm looking for is this of dog to have all these properties which are getting attached to animal, right? Is this, do you guys understand this, what I just said? Everyone say yes if you do. Okay, so now the question is very simple. Now the question is very simple. Shubham, क्या नहीं समझ आया? जल्दी पूछो. Want to make an animal class as parent class? Yes. Maybe say dog. Nice one, Amit. I really like that suggestion, Amit. Appreciate it. Okay. Good idea, Amit. I'm just going to say all of that again, right? I'm just going to repeat everything which I just said. Shall I repeat? Okay. Please be very attentive and please listen to this very carefully. Okay. When you say new dog, and please keep saying yes when I ask you. When we say new dog, right? Does everyone know that animal this is created? I mean, this line happens automatically and this line also happens automatically, right? So what is it creating? It's creating an animal this. And of course, it's in some way returning that animal this. Right? Now, since we want to reuse these things which are present on animal already, like name, energy, and eat, run, and rest, right? It is what we are trying to accomplish, correct? Okay. Second fact that we know is when we, let's say I'm doing something like line 1471, right? T is equal to new animal. We know for a fact the moment we do this and the moment we do it inside animal function, animal this will be created. Animal this will be created and animal this will be returned, isn't it? Okay, great. The question is only this. The question is only, as I say, when I am, if somehow I am able to pass dog this to animal, right? And animal starts using the this of dog or the dog this, and it does all of these things on it. Then everything is solved. Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? If the one which is created in dog, if the one which is created in dog is somehow by magic we are able to use it in animal, then everything is solved. That's the only thing I'm saying. Correct. Now, sir, you want dog property get attached and accessed by animal, right? नहीं श्वेता, उल्टा क्यों बोल रहे हो यार? I want animal properties to be accessible by a dog. That's the reason I'm trying to attach animal properties to dog, right? अरे मेरे भाई किशोर, पॉइंट समझने की कोशिश करो, लेट और कॉन्स पे मत जाओ ना अभी. So we have to access the instances of animal and dog. It's not, that's not what I'm saying, Ravi. What I'm saying is an instance of dog is always an instance of animal also. That's what I'm trying to say. And how we go about this, how we go about that is, first, you call this guy using new dog. So it creates a dog this. Now to dog this, we have to attach these properties. Which properties? The animal's property. The moment that happens, dog automatically becomes an instance of animal. Are we all clear with this, with what I said just now? पक्का? Everyone सोच लो, पूछ लो. ठीक है, ठीक है. Now it's coding time because I need to make you guys understand some important concept. Okay, the concept is like this. Suppose there was a function like this. I'm going to call it function dog. And this is a simple dog, it just has a name. I have something as this dot name equals name. Right? We know for a fact that when we say new dog, let's say Tommy, what does it return to us? It returns to us the instance of this class or this constructor function. Does everyone understand these three lines? Okay. Internally, how this happens, we've talked about this too many times. Something like line number 1470 is happening, right? And we should confirm this, right? You should not believe me, you should confirm this. How can you confirm this? One is you should simply here do console.log. This. One thing you do here and the other you do here, right? Okay. And now let's call new dog Tommy. And please look at the lines which will get console.logged. So one was an empty instance, right? But if you can see that JavaScript is smart enough, and because it's naming a dog already, right? And why is it doing that? Because implicitly, this line has already got executed, right? So even though this is nothing, this was an empty object, JavaScript is smart enough and it's telling you, hey, it's an empty object, but it's an instance of dog. Correct? Correct. Second is the second log which is happening here, that is showing you the complete dog, which has a name also. So this was an empty dog. This was a dog with the name Tommy. Right? Okay. Now let's erase all of this. Okay. Going back here. The question was very simple. Right? If you call it with new, that thing happens, right? If you call it with new dog and let's say some name Tommy, we know what happens, right? We know that this thing internally happens. We also know another thing, and what is that? That is, if you do not call it with the new keyword, then what happens, guys? Then what happens if you do not call it with the new keyword? See, it's a function, it will still get called. But what is going to be the value of this? That is what we are trying to figure out. Nahi, error nahi, Sirjul. It will return undefined. No doubts about that. It will return undefined because this line, the return is not going to happen, but this is still going to have some value. Correct? Shall we see what is the value of this in that case? Okay, please focus because something unfamiliar is going to happen. Please focus. I do this, and what do I see here? I see here the window object, right? Okay, now why is that happening? Let's just understand it very quickly. Yeah, Amit, I'm coming to it. Whenever you create these functions, right, with function keywords, and this could be any function. Let's name this guy temp. This inside these functions, right, basically points to the global object or the window object, right? Try doing it, try calling temp, and it's actually pointing to the global object, right? This is how this keyword in JavaScript works, right? So up until now, we had seen two rules of this. One was when we call it with new. The other was inside objects, that it points to the object itself. And today I'm telling you a third one. Will you remember the third one also? right? Correct. In fact, even if I write this just here without outside any function, it also points to the global or the window object, right? And when you're inside a function, nothing different happens. It still keeps pointing to this guy. Are we clear with this thing also, which I just said? Okay. Okay. And now here is where things will get slightly tricky. Okay. Shall I go? Shall I go forward with what I was going to do? Okay. What I'm going to do now is I am going to, you ask this temp to use my this, right? And how do I do that? Please look at this very carefully, guys. Every function has something called as dot call, right? Every function in JS can be called either this way, and you just put these brackets, or it can be called by saying temp dot call. Let's check if it works. Yes, it also works, right? Do you see this? The only difference is that this guy takes an argument, right? Can you read the argument which is mentioned? Can you read this tooltip? What is it saying? Can anyone read this? It's saying this arg, right? So what that means is it means this argument, right? So essentially, whatever you pass here, let's say the first thing I'm passing as an object, E1, E2, right? And let's see, I'm again going to call this. Please see what is going to happen now. What happened, guys? What got console.logged? No, absolutely not, Sweta. Please listen first. Did we see what happened here? You are able to set the this of a function, right? This arg nahi call hua, main confuse mat karo. This arg is simply an argument, which is the first argument of call, right? Whatever you specify to that guy becomes the value of this inside the function. Did we understand this, everyone? I'm going to repeat myself again. Please listen to this. In JavaScript, you can call functions in two ways. Either you can say temp, right? When you do this, when you call it like this, you do not have any control over this which is inside that function, right? But if you wanted to change that thing, right? If you wanted to change that thing, how can you do that? You can use the call method on that function. It takes the first argument it takes is this argument, right? So of course it's an argument, it's an object. Now whatever you pass to this guy, right, will become the value of this, inside that function. Does everyone understand this? Absolutely right, Shivam. So you are to manipulate or change this of a function, you need to use call. Right? So if someone asks you what call does, so it just gives you another way of calling a function, right? But one question you should have asked, right? Some people, let's say this function used to take 2 arguments, let's say name and energy, for example. Of course, you would want to log those also along with this thing, right? Now when I call temp like this, what happens? Let's look at it. We see this object, right, which is the global or window object, and we see name and we see energy, right? Name and energy, Tommy and 40. Do you guys see this? Clear? However, when you wanted to call the same thing using dot call, right, what you need to do is you need to say dot call. The first argument is going to be this thing, right? And again, I'm just going to pass something very simple, which is, of course, A1, B2, right? And everything works as expected. So in some sense, when you're using dot call, the first argument gets reserved for this thing, and whatever you pass as the other arguments, they will be used simply with name and energy. No, Vishal, it's not. Please, Vishal, you need to clarify this. It's not that it will always return global value of this, right? It's not either whatever value of this that it had in. Arey yaar, sun to lo na, guys. Please stop making conclusions, yaar. It's not that simple. Otherwise, I would have said it. Now listen. If you do not call it with call, if you simply call it like this, all I'm saying is you do not have a control over this thing. Whatever it has really depends on where it is placed. So in this case, it is coming as the global object or the window object. In some other case, it can come as something else. The basic point is, if you call it without dot call, you do not have a control on what? Please type on the chat. If you call it without dot call, you do not. Yes, absolutely right, Rashan. Right? So if you want to have a control over that, you need to call it with dot call, where the first argument will become the value of this and the other things, whatever as it is. Are we clear, everyone? Is everyone clear with the concept? Please say yes or please say no or repeat. कोई स्टोरेज कहीं पे नहीं हो रहा है यार. Okay. Okay. I will repeat it. ठीक है. Let me repeat this. किसने पूछा है? अमित, आपने पूछा है ना, आपको अनम्यूट होना पड़ेगा लेकिन. Okay, guys. So I'm going to explain this to Amit and everyone should listen. Amit, please come on unmute.
Yes, sir.
मुझे आप सिंपल बात बताओ.
Excuse me. Yes, sir.
No problem. This is a function, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we call a function in JavaScript? Everyone, we call it like this, right?
Yes.
Either we pass variables to it or we don't pass variables to it. That's the only thing.
Yes, yes.
Like this, three things are happening. These two are getting as undefined because we did not send any value.
Mm-hmm.
But this peculiar guy is somehow getting the value of the global window, right?
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Let's not talk about it, yes, but it's getting a value which we did not set. Itna sab kuch
Right.
samajh. It's getting some value which we did not set. Kahan se aaya? Later on, right? The only thing that I'm telling you guys now is, let's say you want to have control over this thing. How do you do this? Instead of calling it like this, JavaScript provides you a special method wherein you can say temp, the name of the function, dot call, right? And now the way the language is internally designed is that the first argument of this guy, right? I'm just going to give it A1, B2, right? And when I hit enter, see what happens. Same function was called, but now A1 and B2 was the value of this, while these two pairs are still undefined. So from being in a place where you did not have control over what this, you have a mechanism now where you can control the value of this. That's the only thing that I've said. Is it complicated?
And sir, just one question. Excuse me. If suppose we call it as temp, and inside that we pass on say whatever you have written here as A1 B2, we don't use the call, we just say temp, and then inside the parenthesis we write whatever we have written.
Amit, बहुत गलत question है ये, because what is this? Then it's basically an object, right?
Yes.
And this is the first variable. तो name की value आपने ये set कर दी.
अच्छा, sorry. Okay, understood. Sorry, my bad.
Energy undefined हो गई और this as it is रह गया.
Okay, sir.
Guys. Yes, sir. That's the only thing that I've been saying so far.
Okay, sir. So I unmute myself?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Can we assign something else to this keyword than object? That's again, I like that question. Let's try that. Since Ajay has asked this. Not like this, temp.call, of course. Ajay, did I answer your question? So JavaScript does not differentiate between string, array, object, है ना? उसने तो सिर्फ ये बोला है whatever value of this that you want to set, just pass that. Whether it's a string or whether it's an object, JavaScript doesn't care, right? Are we clear now? Okay, so now I'm going to ask everyone another question. Right? If instead of doing this, you call it like this, then what happens? Then what will get logged here? I want everyone to type that answer in chat. Now I'm saying new temp and not temp or temp.call. What will happen? Please, sab log batao. Okay, what will be the value of name energy? पहले ये बता दो, these two are easy. Undefined, undefined, right? Perfect. Shivam ने बहुत अच्छा आंसर दिया है. It will be this empty array, undefined and undefined. And why do you see this temp keyword? Because JavaScript को internally पता है that when you said new temp, it would have done this thing, right? And this basically this empty object तो है, but it's a instance of temp. And that's all that I wanted to tell you guys. Are we perfectly clear with this? Everyone? I know not an easy concept, but are we clear? Okay, wonderful. Step 2. Now, why did I tell you all of this? I told you all of this to get here, right? Please guys, ध्यान से सुनना. It's going to happen 1 second में. Instead of, so we know, या तो हम animal को ऐसे call कर सकते थे with a constructor, right? या फिर हम animal को ऐसे call कर सकते थे, correct? Guys, या फिर हम animal को ऐसे भी तो call कर सकते थे. Can I do this? Let's please understand what this will accomplish. मैंने animal को call कर दिया with just the this, और मैंने dog को call किया था इस तरीके से, right? So the dog this is going to be object.create. Basically, it's going to be an instance of dog. That's all you need to know. Finally, what I did is I said animal.call with that particular instance because I passed it here. Now, please understand what that is going to accomplish. Inside here, वो क्या कर देगा? वो बोल देगा this dot name is name, correct? and this dot energy is energy. That's the only thing it's going to do. अब ये दोनों चीजें नहीं चलेंगी guys, because it was not invoked using the new keyword. Do we understand this, everyone? These two things are not going to work because it was not called using the new operator, right? But internally, आपने क्या किया? Name and energy are going to get associated on this guy, correct? So finally, जब ये dog return करेगा, so I say const Tommy. Let's see what would have happened. I pass Tommy here, I pass 10 here, and I passed breed of dog. Anyone? Okay. What happens? Tommy 10 Labradoodle. Okay. This thing would have happened. Animal.call ये वाला this or dog वाला this with what two parameters? Name and energy. ठीक है. These two got called on animal. Let's go to animal. Right. इसमें name on energy था. Right. On this guy, right, because it was called using call, we have said this dot name is name and this dot energy is energy. What would have that accomplished, guys? It will bind these two things to that this, या फिर उस object के ऊपर simply ये दो चीजें डाल देगा, right? So after this line is executed, you will have a this which has dot name, energy, and last में अपने breed भी डाल दिया, correct? Do we agree? If this is everyone clear with this? Say yes or say no. Right? Now, just one thing is left, folks. Just one thing is left. Okay. What is that thing left? Now, for example, tell me if I say Tommy dot eat, what will happen? When I say Tommy dot eat, what will happen? Will I get console? Will I get animal eats? Will I get animal eats? Yes or no? सिर्फ एक आदमी ने सही आंसर दिया है. ओके, अब दो हो गए. Absolutely not. No, you will not get it. कहाँ से, sir? What have you written here? You have, when you say Tommy.eat, right? Since Tommy was created using the new keyword, failed lookups are going to happen on dog.prototype. Dog.prototype पे eat है क्या? Does dog.prototype have eat? No, it doesn't. Then why did you guys say yes? You still don't have access to rest, run, or eat. Right? So to achieve that, what do we need to do? What we would have need to do, guys? You would need to delegate failed lookups. वो तो already है. Any failed lookup on Tommy is going to happen on dog.prototype. All I'm going to do is this. Outside this, I'll say dog.prototype equals .prototype. Is this the correct way? No, it's the wrong way. This is the right way. Because now field lookups उस पे तभी होंगे. See, we don't have to make the prototype of dog equal to animal prototype. What we need to say is, hey, whenever there is a failed lookup on dog ka prototype, look it up on animal ka prototype. That's what we need to say. And now, जो dog की specific properties थी, they can still continue to reside on dog.prototype. We have no problem. Right? Because object.create क्या करता है, guys? Object create करता है empty with just one property, failed lookup वाली. और मुझे जब बार डालना है, तो I'll just put it like this. Now this is complete. Are we absolutely clear with this concept? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, बोलो. अमित, बहुत गलतियां की हैं आज आपने. सोच नहीं रहे हो सर. ठीक है, चलो. Let's move forward then. ठीक है. So now we've created our base class, which I'm going to call as animal, right? And now we have our animal class also. We have our dog class also, right? So nothing fancy has happened, guys. Right? Now, whenever you say Tommy.eat, what is going to happen is it's going to check, hey, does Tommy have an eat property? No, it does not. Okay. So let's look on its prototype. Why do we look on its prototype? Because Tommy was created using object.create on dog.prototype. Perfect. So we said dog.pro. So we checked dog ka prototype. Does dog.prototype have eat? It's not directly there, right? But since dog.prototype was created using object.create of animal prototype, where is JavaScript now going to look for the eat? Guys, kahan pe look karega? On animal ka prototype, and there it will find it. Not animal prototype. And that's how Tommy.eat functions or works, right? Cool. Moving forward, right? So again, JavaScript checks if Tommy has an eat property. It doesn't. JavaScript checks if dog.prototype has that property. It also doesn't. JavaScript finally checks if animal.prototype has that property. It has, so it calls it. Right? And I think all of us are now clear with this. Right? Okay. Okay. What else is left? Yes. One thing, guys, that I wanted to talk to you about is let's just copy all of this together and let's just run some code. I think that will make it clear. Okay. When you do Tommy.eats, oh, it was Tommy.eat, I believe. So it gives animal eats. Okay. But what I want you to know is what is the when you look at Tommy, right? I say Tommy. What do you see, guys? You say a dog. It has a breed, energy, name, and nothing is power because we didn't set power, right? But what is Charlie an instance of? Right? Charlie or Tommy, whatever. What is Tommy an instance of? Tommy, instance of dog is true, correct? But is Tommy an instance of animal? Is Tommy an instance of animal? Yes or no? But what if yes? And it says yes. Right? Now, just to prove that, I'm going to say get prototype of Tommy. Right? And what did you get here? You got just bark function, right? Which further had a prototype. This, see, what I'm trying to tell you guys is when you did object.get prototype of Tommy, what did it return? What is the type of Tommy? It's calling as animal or is it calling as dog? It's calling as animal, right? But that should not be the case, isn't it, guys? So when I do Tommy dot constructor, which constructor is it pointing me to? It's pointing me to the animal constructor, correct? But that should not be the case. Tommy should still point to the dog constructor, right? Now, why is this happening? Because see, when you do Tommy dot constructor, it first checks, does it have a property on Tommy? It doesn't, right? Then JavaScript is going to check on the prototype of dog. It also doesn't, right? The constructor property. Finally, that delegation happens on animal.prototype, right? And does it have a constructor? Does it have a dot constructor? It does. And that's where this problem is coming from, right? So how can we fix that? Anyone? It's simple, actually. See, in such cases, you should do these two things. If you look at it, how we created our dog, we said dog.prototype is this thing, especially assigned the bark on it, created the dog. But before this, we should have done one simple thing. We should have done dog.prototype.constructor equals what? Equals dog. And this fixes that problem. Did you guys understand? Guys, did you understand? I'll repeat it, Amit. Sure. Let me repeat that all over again. Don't worry. Okay, it's a complex one. Let me understand that. Let me repeat that. Okay, this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. I'm just copying all of this code, pasting it here. Okay. Step one. Oh, I by mistakenly posted that also. That will not work. Reload the editor. Paste this and remove this. Okay. Please, everyone, do you understand this code? This code we all understand, right? What is it? Animal, prototype of animal, dog, and basically dog.prototype equals object.create animal.prototype, correct? And now, if you had not done this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these. I'll just remove this line actually, right? All I'm doing is dog.prototype.bark. Okay? Okay? Guys, I'm just executing this. Now, when I say Tommy, wait, I need to create Tommy first. How do I create Tommy? I create Tommy with this. Okay? Tommy is create. So it's saying Tommy.heat is not a function. Why is it saying that? Because right now, there is no prototype delegation which is happening to animal. You guys understand this? Why Tommy.heat is not working right now? Correct? Okay. If you say object.get prototype of, and you say Tommy, what do you see? You see bark and you see constructor. What was this constructor? We've talked about it in great detail, guys, yesterday. Everyone knows what this constructor is. I'm not repeating that again, right? But the only point that I made was very simple, actually. Because in the quest of delegation, right? In the quest of delegation, basically I'm writing the same code again. What did I have to do here? I had to say dog.prototype equals object.create with animal.prototype, right? I need to do this, right? To make dog an instance of animal. That's how you will get access to eat, run, and rest, correct? But the moment you do that, now when you do object dot get prototype of Tommy, right? Okay, now again I have to create Tommy. I'm going to call it Tommy 2 because it was constructed using const. Right? Tommy 2 is created. When you look at the prototype of Tommy 2, what do you see, guys? What is the type? The type is animal, right? And not dog. Why has that happened? Because you have replaced the entire dog.prototype with this guy. And you've only put a bark property on it. Dog.prototype is equal to this creates a blank object in the name of dog.prototype. उस पे आपने bark attach कर दिया, right? So all you see here is bark. If you look at it in the proto of it, you see other animal methods. But now it has become an instance of animal and not dog. And just to fix that, you need to apply a correction factor. What is that correction factor? This is that correction factor. Dog.prototype.constructor equals dog. It's not explicitly Sweta, आप constructor नहीं बना रहे हो. Constructor already exists करता है dog का. The constructor is right here. This is a constructor only, right? Whenever it's called with new. When you do new dog, this is a constructor only. Just that the property which was pointing to constructor got overridden because of this thing. Right? So what got missed by this? You're just recreating that. That's it. No, Amit, we may not say that. We can only say this. That prototype से जो constructor चला गया था, I am bringing it back. I am reconciling it. That's all you're going to say, nothing else. Correct. It got overridden, Shivam. अरे शिवम इधर देखो ना, constructor नहीं overridden हुआ शिवम भाई, आप तो गलत मत बोलो. Prototype got changed. ठीक है, prototype पे already constructor होता था. But आपने यहाँ पे explicitly बोल दिया object dot create animal dot prototype. ठीक है, because you wanted fail lookup का delegation on animal dot prototype, right? With the doing of this, the constructor will get removed from prototype, right? I'm just replacing it. That's all I'm doing. I don't know what you mean, Ajay. मुझे आपका स्टेटमेंट नहीं समझ आ रहा, अजय. Ask as many questions. That's not a problem. Online 1471. हाँ. रवि, कल की क्लास पढ़ लो एक बार. भूल गए हो आप. कंस्ट्रक्टर क्या होता था? You have forgotten that. Otherwise, you would not be asking this question. Sweta, what about this? अरे यार Sweta, ठीक है. I have one answer that I have to stop today's class here because of the questions that you guys are asking. जब आप इसको new dog के साथ call करते हो, Sweta, please answer this. When you call this with new dog, like this, right? What becomes the value of this? अभी वही बताया ना that implicitly this thing is happening. नहीं, no new dog. नहीं भाई. Implicitly this is happening, Sweta, yes or no? जल्दी बोलो Sweta. Right? तो भाई ये अलग थोड़ी ना होगा फिर. बस आपको दिख नहीं रहा ना ये. But this is what you're going to pass here. So this is the animal, the dog, this which you have created in the first line. You have not created. JavaScript implicitly executed for you. But होगा वही वाला this. console.log करके तो दिखाया था मैडम अभी. क्लियर है या नहीं? Sweta, ask if it's still a doubt. Please ask if it's still a doubt. I'm waiting on you. So, can you come on unmute once? It will not be confusing anymore. If you can come on unmute for a second. Can you? Okay. Let's fix it together. Unmute yourself.
Hello. Hi, sir.
Hi, Sweta.
Sir,
Let me first talk, and then you can just answer, right?
okay.
When you say new dog, can you tell what happens?
So the instance of dog class got created.
Instance of dog class got created, but what have we learned? That whenever we call something with new, two things happen. One is this line and this line.
Will
They
get
implicitly happen, मतलब बिना लिखे होता है, right? तो इसका मतलब अगर ये explicitly हो रहा तो आपने this की value क्या बना दी यहाँ पे? Object dot create dog dot prototype.
Correct, sir.
Right? Object dot create basically creates a blank object. Field property delegation to whatever parent object you passed here, which is dog dot prototype. ये clear है?
Yes, sir.
तो फिर एक बात बताओ. When you are passing this which you have created in the line above in here, then what is the question?
तो सर यहाँ पे ये जो this है मतलब लाइक डायरेक्ट एनिमल अगर डॉट फंक्शन से अगर कॉल करेंगे तो वो this का एक्सेस नहीं रहेगा. यहाँ पे we are by passing this as a like here as a parameter. Now we are having that access of that this. That's it, right? The same thing we are.
So you see, this. Let's assume that this line was written here, right? तो यहाँ पे क्या हो गया? This was got created as an empty object. Do we agree on this?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. By doing animal dot call with this thing जो just ऊपर वाली line में create किया, animal gets called with अब ये नहीं होगा animal में, right? Because ये new के साथ होता है, right? Right?
So now we are having this new, this empty, and then name and energy, right?
ये वाला this जो आपने यहाँ पे create किया था got sent here, ठीक है?
Okay.
ठीक है? उस वाले this पे which you have sent from line 1468, you are attaching two properties because this was nothing but an object. So you said, hey, this dot name is name and this dot energy is energy. ये clear है?
तो सर ये जो दो प्रॉपर्टी अटैच हो रहा है उस दिस के ऊपर दैट नेम एंड एनर्जी एंड हियर अगेन वी आर पासिंग द टू अदर पैरामीटर एज नेम एंड एनर्जी सो बोथ आर सेम.
आपने मिस कर दिया क्या? कॉल कैसे काम करता है अभी तो बताया आपको.
नो सर मैंने मिस नहीं करा. वो जो आपने एग्जांपल बताया था वहां पे वो क्लियर था बट इस जब कोड में आपने बताया ना ये एज अ पासिंग एज अ थ्री पैरामीटर.
दोबारा सुन लेते हैं. Three parameters pass कर. The first parameter is this arg or this argument, correct?
Yes.
वो ये वाला this था ऊपर वाला.
Correct.
Two other चीजें मैंने पास कर दी, name and energy.
Correct.
ये वो भी चले गए ऊपर, right?
Yes sir.
अब इस वाले this में जो यहाँ से पास किया था उस पे मैंने दो चीजें अटैच कर दी, this dot name, this dot energy, और उनकी वैल्यूज क्या हैं? ये वाला name और ये वाली energy. Object के अंदर this is how I assign properties, right? I say object dot property is equal to the value.
Yeah, and property equals to value.
Correct. So after this line is executed, basically these two properties got attached to this guy or this guy because they are both the same things. Is that clear?
So sir, दोनों property same ही है ना? It's just that it is getting attached to this, right?
It's getting attached यहाँ पे. It's getting attached यहाँ पे. Properties तो यही वाला है ना, जो name energy यहाँ पे था, वही आपने आगे पास कर दिया. That's all you've done.
Okay sir.
Clear है?
Yes sir.
Right. What you can probably ask is, अगर ऐसे ही करना था, तो यहीं पे कर देते हैं attach. This dot name is equal to name and this dot energy is equal to energy. This is a perfectly valid question. Do you have this question? You should. Guys, if we were to do these lines here, then there is no point of this line. Yes or no? Yes. But then why are we deliberately doing this line? See, we are deliberately doing this line because today there are two properties, right? Because this is just an example. But when you will be creating an actual real world object, there may not be two properties, there may be 100 properties, right? By doing this, you are in a way showing that, hey, dog is somehow dependent on animal. The this of animal of dog is dependent on animal. Is that clear, everyone?
यस सर. सो सर अभी आपने जो एक्सप्लिसिटली वहां पे मेंशन करके दिखाया दिस डॉट, अगर वहीं पे करना था, मतलब अगर टू प्रॉपर्टी के साथ कर रहे हैं तो वैसे कर सकते, तो उससे भी तो, हाँ नहीं, आई एम नॉट डूइंग, आई एम जस्ट आस्किंग कि उससे भी तो सर वही एनिमल का ही प्रॉपर्टी को वो कैरी करेगा, राइट?
एब्सोल्युटली. जो दो प्रॉपर्टीज हैं यहाँ पे, आपको इस दिस पे लगा रहे हो बाय डूइंग दिस. either you do it here or you do it there, doesn't really matter.
हाँ, ओके सर.
Cool. Is it आप confusing तो नहीं है?
नो सर.
Okay. Cool.
थैंक यू सर.
Welcome. Guys, are we absolutely clear with this now? With this? Right? So we have created a dog, which is an instance of animal. And for doing that, we had to do these things. Matlab, not the bar thing, additional, but these two things are absolutely important. Okay? Yes, definitely, guys. You are going to need not probably one, but multiple revisions, right? Because what has happened is you have understood the concept. It's clear, but to get it into your head, right? For it to come naturally to you, it's going to take practice. It's going to take writing this many times. It's going to take watching this lecture probably many times, right? But once we have the concept clear, it's 50% solved. Now, what we have to do is we have to revise. Concept should absolutely be clear. It does not mean that it's the end of it, but it's pretty much, if you just revise this well enough, multiple times, whatever, write it, whatever, guys, then it will be the end of it. It will just become natural to you, like it's natural to me, right? Because I've done it so many times. Clear? I do have a few more things which I thought I would cover today, right? But I think I'm going to stop because the questions that you guys are asking now is really, it's making me feel that you guys are going to lose things now. So I'm going to stop here for sure. Because we don't realize it, right? But it is becoming overloaded, right? Sir, one silly question. Why this got named as this? It must have some serious reason, else it would have been that or something else. See, the reason is context, right? So this means context. So semantically, or when I'm talking also, how will I say, hey, guys, did you understand this, right? Or how would we say this is an instance of class, right? Right? So this is the vocabulary that we use, and programming language is nothing but they would try to create something which is as close to your natural way of speaking, right? And that's why they choose this. This is keyword of constructor. That is absolutely not true, Pratik. Maybe in the world of Java or in the world of C++, that is true. But in JavaScript, this is what I just told you. This is what I have just told you. And I've told you three things. Yes, three things. आपके लिए this three things ही है. Then we will be ending this course in, let's say, next 5 days. Then it will be 4 things, and it will never be more than that. Okay, one question then, sir. What is difference? Dheeraj, I will really try that out. Believe me, I will try it out. Priyanka's question. One question then, sir. What is difference between global object and object? Okay. प्रियंका, जब हमने HTML पढ़ना शुरू किया था तो मैंने आपको क्या बताया था दैट जो विंडो ऑब्जेक्ट है, राइट, विंडो ऑब्जेक्ट विच इज एक्सेसिबल फ्रॉम एवरीवेयर, दैट इज कॉल्ड द ग्लोबल ऑब्जेक्ट. ठीक है, बिकॉज इट इज एक्सेसिबल फ्रॉम एवरीवेयर. सो इट्स समथिंग विच इज द ग्लोबल दिस. आप इस तरीके से सोचो, क्योंकि दिस का मतलब कॉन्टेक्स्ट होता है, तो वो ग्लोबल कॉन्टेक्स्ट है. बट व्हाट इज कैपिटल ओ वाला ऑब्जेक्ट, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट डील. हमने उसके बारे में कल बात किया था. एंड व्हाट डिड वी डिस्कस, दैट एवरी ऑब्जेक्ट दैट इज एवर क्रिएटेड इन जावास्क्रिप्ट हैज इट्स पेरेंट एज दिस गाय. सो इट्स लाइक सेइंग ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट क्रिएट विद दिस ऑब्जेक्ट. मतलब सबका जो बेस है, सबका जो प्रोटोटाइप है, is this object. Any object in JavaScript ever created will have this thing as its prototype. Okay. So what we discussed today is what is called inheritance, right? So dog is inheriting the property of animal, right? So we've covered what? We have covered prototypal inheritance or the prototype chain. Because it can really form a chain, right? Like we saw, एक का parent, वो दूसरे का parent, वो उसका parent, right? And you can just keep going as deeper as you want, right? There were a few more things which I wanted to cover, but anyway, understanding is more important than completing the syllabus for me. I understand, Dheeraj. I will try my best, like I said. So sorry to ask you the old topics. Line numbers 971 for switch button have a little confusion in if condition. रुको. बताओ आरवी, कहाँ पे कंफ्यूजन है आपको? लाइन बताओ आरवी. आरवी, आपका ही डाउट है, लाइन नंबर तो बताओ. लाइन नंबर 975. ओके. माउस एनेबल्ड क्या है, राइट? तो हमने क्या किया था, वी हैड क्रिएटेड अ सेपरेट वेरिएबल व्हिच वाज कॉल्ड माउस एनेबल्ड, व्हिच वाज सेट टू फॉल्स, राइट? Each time when we were clicking it, right, if the mouse was not enabled, right, if it was not enabled, मतलब अगर वो false था, तो आप इस वाले if के अंदर घुसोगे. And here what we are doing is we are calling flip switch. What was flip switch doing? Flip switch was basically a function which was just changing this mouse if it was false to true, because not of false is true and not of true is false. तो basically वो mouse enabled वाले variable को flip कर देता था. So that अगली बार जब आप इस बटन को क्लिक कर रहे हो, अगर पहले false था तो true हो गया होगा. So now this if is not going to run, but this bracket is going to run. Here. अभी क्लियर है ना भाई? यस. इनर टेक्स्ट को इफ कंडीशन तो कैसे बनाओगे यार? पॉइंट है कि दोनों बार अलग इफ चला रहे हो, अलग अलग ब्लॉक चला रहे हो, बिकॉज माउस फ्लिप हो जाता है दोनों के अंदर, मतलब दैट कंडीशन गेट्स फ्लिप्ड. सो देन व्हाटएवर यू वांट टू डू, सो हमने क्या किया, इन वन केस वी आर कॉलिंग इट माउस डिसेबल्ड. सो बेसिकली एक बार क्लिक करने पे माउस डिसेबल हुआ, दूसरी बार क्लिक करने पे एनेबल हुआ. दैट्स इट. Thank you, Mayank. You guys also take care. Please stay safe from COVID. It's spreading like wildfire. I think everyone already knows that. Please be safe, everyone. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. पूछो शेख भाई. Navigator.gamepad क्या होता है? See, whenever you attach certain gamepads to your computer, right? Navigator gets access to them. So when you say navigator.getGamepad, it will give you the list of those gamepads. But I don't know where you're getting this question from, because it's Google karo. Google it, Amit. Google it, check. Good night. Shubham bhai. Good night, everyone. Tata. Hope you guys had fun today. कोई question है तो पूछ लो, sir. I'm here. I don't know what to say to that, धीरज. क्या बोलते हो यार धीरज? अरे मुझसे पूछ लो यार, अभी पूछ रहा हूँ ना मैं यहाँ पे. पूछो क्या डीएसए का क्या क्वेश्चन है तुम लोगों का, बताओ. What is the DSA question? टाइम नहीं है मैडम, नहीं तो पक्का लेना चाहता हूँ. हाँ. Okay. We have 10, 15 minutes. Do you guys have a DSA question? Please hit me. मैं पक्का बेटा नहीं बोलूंगा. I'll address you with your name and I'll answer it. What is your DSA question? Yes, Pradeep, but we will talk about it tomorrow. So there are a few questions which test cases are not passing. उसका तो क्या करूं, but क्या question है अमित ऐसा? Like swapping of numbers. Okay, how do we swap numbers? How do we swap numbers? How are you swapping numbers, Amit? Yes, please. I'll unmute you. Let's use this time for your DSA doubts, if I may.
Hello, I'm audible, sir. Yes, it seems like I'm audible.
बोलो.
तो ये जैसा शिवम ने यहाँ लिखा ना टेम्प करके, या फिर मैंने क्या किया था कि ABC लिया, then C is equal to A, then B is equal to A, and then C is equal to B. Sorry, I made some, मतलब A का वैल्यू C में डाला, B का वैल्यू A में डाला, and then C का वैल्यू A में डाला.
अच्छा सुनो, ठीक है. Let's say you had two variables, right? A was 10, B was
right.
ठीक है.
Right.
Right. What you want to do is when you say swap A comma B, right? You
Right.
want B to come to A and A to come to B, right?
Right.
Correct.
Right.
What essentially you are trying to do here is इन दोनों का variable swap कर दो. So there are two techniques, okay? And this is something that can come in.
I even did this Sumit वाला technique which he said right now. एक तो वो directly equal करके करते हैं, एक plus करके करते हैं, और एक multiply and divide करके करते हैं. But तीनों में test case नहीं pass हो रहा था.
Okay, I mean I don't know the test cases, but it's pretty straightforward. You take a temp variable, A में डाला. Now temp is storing the value of A, right? Then A में B डाल दिया, and then B डाल दिया.
Right, this is the simplest what we can do.
But I think test cases शायद इसमें नहीं pass हो रहे होंगे आप लोगों के.
But why, sir?
It's call by reference and call by value problem that you guys might be facing. Right? Literally आपने ये कर दिया होगा, but you must be calling it in a remote function or a separate function, right? So doing this, for example, let's understand this, right? I'm going to say console.log A comma B. right? What is going to be the value of A and B? यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है मैं बताऊं, और anyone कोई भी बताओ।
कहाँ जो console.log में है?
बताओ मत।
console.log में A का वैल्यू आना चाहिए 20, B का आना चाहिए 10, बिकॉज स्वैप हुआ ना।
नहीं आए।
क्यों
नहीं होगा स्वैप, ये देखो
क्यों
10 और 20 आया,
बट
because whenever you're passing these A and B, I'm
okay, we are not
explaining
returning it, we are not
that
returning it,
because when you pass these, no, that's not it, Baba. सुनो ना, सुनो तो सही। When you call swap with A and B, right? ठीक है? The A and B here, the A and B here are not these A and B, right? So the value of this A and this B is getting copied in these variables, but they are not these variables internally, right? So whatever swap you do, अगर आप यहाँ पे console.log लिख देते हैं same चीज का, you will see that they are swapped, right? But that does not translate to outside of this function. So this concept is called by value, right? Because these variables A and B are getting called by the value, right?
okay,
मतलब जो यहाँ पे value थी वो copy हो गई इधर, but it's not the same variable. The other concept is of call by reference. What does call by reference means? It means, hey, if I was somehow able to call these variables such that whatever I pass here, A and B, right, it is actually the same variables. अब जावास्क्रिप्ट में आप ये इस तरीके से नहीं कर सकते, right? जावास्क्रिप्ट में whenever you pass primitives, what are primitives? Primitives are numbers, right? And one of the type of primitives is numbers. So they get copied, right? But please, shall I go slightly deeper if everyone is okay?
yes sir, and I'll mute myself.
Okay. Okay. If these were objects, right? So let's say I say let A is equal to T1, कुछ भी example, and B was U2. Okay, guys? Do you guys understand this? So instead of numbers, I can create objects, है ना? A एक object है, B एक object है, right? Let's call swap now. Right? Now please try to understand one thing that I'm trying to tell you. Inside this swap, right? अभी क्या हुआ? मैंने ये A was this particular object, B was this particular object, और मैंने swap A और B कर दिया, right? But instead of swapping, I mean, make my point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say A, right, dot T, okay, is, please look at this very carefully. A dot T is equal to 4 and B dot U is equal to 5, right? Now it's not really swapping it. I also understand that. Please see what happens then. When you console.log A and B का value, मतलब the T and U inside A and B have actually changed, right? So what is the point that I'm trying to make? Whenever you are passing objects in the world of JavaScript, they are passed by reference. ठीक है guys, इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? It means that then no local copy is getting created here. जो भी change आप object में यहाँ पे करेंगे, that change happens unanimously. That change will happen everywhere. But in the case of numbers, when you call it, whatever change you do here will not get affected in the outside world because those get copied. So this is called the concept of call by value, and this is the concept of call by reference. Now, what you should do is, since you guys are learning, which language is it that you're learning DSA in? Is it C++? Okay, it's Java, right? So in Java, go ahead and search, Google it. I mean, I know the answer, but I won't tell you. Is it call by value or is it call by reference? Okay, everyone, did we understand this? The concept of value and reference? I have not seen your test cases, but I think this is what might be going wrong with you. The concept is this internally: call by value, call by reference. Cool. Amit, ठीक है अब? Okay. I will not be pushing this code, of course, because I'm here to teach JavaScript, right? Any other question? I have 10 more minutes. Can you explain this? You mean this operator of JavaScript, or